Hello everyone. Today we're finishing up the loose ends of the unit, the integers unit, things that you need to know for the summative assessment, but I haven't necessarily taught you, but I think you know. One is converting rational numbers to decimals. You've done this in the past. I see that many of you know how to do it on 10 marks, but I still want to go over it with you. And then the second is the real world problems using the 4 operations. So far I see you doing it, but I still want to make sure that you hear it from me, and then we'll have another formative before the summative. So our goal for today is to go over the formative if I've not already gone over it with you. Take some notes over the review and fractions to decimals. I believe I'm going to try to fit in a quick formative on Wednesday when we meet, and I'm hoping that summative can be Friday. All right, converting each fraction to a decimal. Remember that the fraction line means, so this line right here means division. So really what you are doing is you are dividing the numerator by the denominator. 6 goes into 5 0 times. So remember there's a decimal after the 5. We can bring the decimal up, and since we're out of numbers, we're going to add a 0 as a placeholder. So now we can do 6 goes into 50 8 times. 8 times 6 is 48. Subtract to get a 2. Add another 0. Bring it down. 20. 6 goes into 20. 3 times. Subtract. Bring out. And we can see that now we're stuck in a pattern where we are going to continue bringing down a 2 and a 0. And so 5/6 is the same thing as 0.83 repeating. So 4/3 we do the same way. 3 goes into 4 how many times? It goes into once, 1 time. Subtract. We have to add our decimal and a 0, bring the 0 down. It goes into 10 3 times. And we'll quickly see that now we are in that pattern where the 3 is repeating. And some of you might have known 4/3 as a repeating decimal. So 1.3 repeating. So again, what you should be doing is pausing and try this last problem like this before you watch how I do it. All right, so here's my work. 5 was in the denominator, so I divided 5 into 12. How many times does 5 go into 12? Goes in 2 times with 2 left over. I added a 0. 5 goes into 20 4 times, so it is exactly negative 2.4. All right, so one of the things you're going to have to do on your assessment is ordering. So you have 3 numbers here, and you have to order from least to greatest. Well, I know since 5.34 is positive, it's going to be the greatest. Now I have to determine which one of these is the greatest. 3 goes into 17 5 times with 2 left over. So 5 2/3, and it's a negative. Don't drop the negative on your formative. Some of you were forgetting that the further away it is to the left from 0, the least it is. So negative 5 2/3 is less than negative 5 1/3. I also want to remind you how to compare percents to fractions. There is one particular problem I'm thinking of where you have to do a little bit of work to compare percents and fractions. So the first thing I'm going to do is change both to decimals. So remember, with the percent, you have to move it back 2 places. So this is like 0.75. And if we divide 5 into 4, I'll do this down here. 5 goes into 4 0 times, so I add a 0. 5 goes into 40 8 times, so 4/5 is 0.8. We could have also changed it because we know that we have to say tenths, so times 2, so 8 tenths. So 0.75 is less than 0.8, so 4/5 is greater than 75%. All right, let's do this one. We move the decimal back, so that's 0.27, and I'm going to divide 11 into 3. goes in 0 times, so I'll put my decimal and start adding zeros. 11 goes into 32 times, that doesn't really help us. Carry the 8 down, add a 0. It goes into 87 times. So right now it looks like they're the same, but I still have something left over. So since 11 goes into 30, and I'm running out of space, 2 times, and then it looks like it goes on from there, 0.272 is greater than 0.27. This one ends, this one goes on, so 3/11ths is greater. All right, word problems. If you've been doing front row has tons of word problems on it. 10 marks somewhat, but this is something very similar to what you might see on front row, and it's similar to what you are going to see on your summative assessment. If you use 1/8 of a teaspoon for each batch and you have 5/16, how many batches can you make? So we're wondering how many times 1/8 goes into 5/16. So 5/16 divided by 1/8. So remember, with division, you're going to keep, change, flip. And I like to simplify first. So 8 goes into 8 one time. It goes into 16 two times. So that comes out to 5/2, or 2.5. Now what that means, if you're asking how many batches we can only make 2 batches with some left over. You could say 2.5, but really, and you could make a half, but I'm going to say 2 full batches with some left over. All right, the last thing I want to talk about is multiplying and dividing decimals, because I see that some of you are getting these problems wrong on 10 marks. So negative times a positive is a negative, so I know that my answer is going to be negative. So now I have to do the work, because remember, it's a no calculator. So 3 times 5 is 15, carry the 1. 3 times 4 is 12, plus 1 is 13. I'm going to put a place value there. 2 times 5 is 10, carry the 1. 2 times 4 is 8, plus 1 is 9. I'm going to add. Now there are 2 places here, so I'm going to move my decimal over 2 places, and I'm going to think, does this make sense? Well, if it had just been 4 times 2, that would have been 8, and we have another half and 0.3 here, so it makes sense that it's about 10. I notice I put my negative right away, or my negative symbol, so I didn't forget that it was going to be negative. Negative 10.35 is my answer. Dividing is a little trickier. Negative divided by a negative is a positive. So I know my answer is going to be positive. So I'm going to set it up like a regular, if it was whole numbers. So this goes on the inside. What we're dividing into goes on the inside. And since there's a decimal here, I have to change it by moving it over 1 place, because we don't want decimals in what we're dividing by. And if I move it once there, I'm going to move it once there. So 12.6, 2 goes into 12 6 times. With nothing left over, so I'm going to bring my 6 down. 2 goes into 6 3 times with nothing left over. So negative 1.26 divided by a negative 0.2 is a positive 6.3. So 0.2 goes into 1.26 6.3 times.